Hello and welcome to the Luv Doc podcast with hosts Waldo Wachewski and Ophelia Bruschi.
Imagine you're throwing your drowning family relationship a life preserver, right?
Yeah.
And the Luv Doc just hands you a flamethrower instead.
Yeah, that is essentially what we're looking at today. Welcome to the Luv Doc podcast. It's a piece of advice that fundamentally redefines, what it means to attempt to heal a family rift in the modern era.
Right. We are unpacking a truly wild Luv Doc today.
Yes, the Luv Doc.
And our mission today is to understand how modern cultural and political polarization is actively tearing families apart. So let's unpack this. We are going to explore the anatomy of a fractured family, some surprisingly aggressive historical comparisons by the Luv Doc, and a deeply unconventional approach to brotherly love. So we start with the letter itself.
Right, the letter that kicked it all off.
Yeah, our writer refers to himself as Blue Big Brother, and he's reaching out to the Luv Doc to figure out how to, in his own words, harmoniously love and coexist with his younger brother.
And what stands out immediately to me is just the profound cognitive dissonance the letter writer is experiencing.
Oh, for sure.
He paints this picture of a sharp dichotomy. So on one hand, Blue Big Brother describes his younger brother as a caring dad and a family man living out in the far suburbs of Austin, Texas. So he recognizes the fundamental humanity of his sibling.
Right, he sees him as a good father.
Yes. But on the other hand, the writer explicitly states he is feeling emotionally distanced and morally ashamed of him.
And the root of that shame is what he describes as his brother's constant conservative mindset, and specifically his support for Donald Trump.
Right.
The older brother actually categorizes the former president as one of the top 3 worst, most crooked, inept, awful, and asshole presidents in USA history.
Which is a very clear baseline assessment.
Yeah. And because of this baseline, bridging the gap just feels totally impossible to him.
And we see this fracture start as an ideological grievance, right? But the writer doesn't just leave it at vague political differences. He weaves a narrative of escalating cultural drift.
He really details these hyper-specific friction points that show how this divide bleeds into just, daily life.
Exactly. You can almost map the escalation.
Yeah.
It starts in the digital world. The older brother mentions a Facebook story the younger brother posted condemning Gay Pride Week, and instead promoting a family and religion night for the Texas MLB Rangers.
So social media acts as this initial catalyst. It broadcasts this shift to the whole family.
Right. And from there, it moves into real-world consequences.
Okay.
The digital post becomes a physical absence.
Oh, right, the wedding.
Yes. The younger brother skipped their California cousin's same-sex wedding in Los Angeles. And the writer's really careful to note this was an epic, fun, and universally attended wedding.
Meaning everyone else was there.
Exactly. Highlighting that the younger brother isolated himself from the rest of the family unit over this specific ideological stance.
And it doesn't just stop at isolated events either. It completely takes over their lifestyle. Like, the younger brother actually pulls his 3 kids out of normal public school and puts them in an Austin charter school called Valor.
Right, because of its classical education curriculum.
Yeah, a classical education curriculum. And the older brother notes with this palpable sense of triumph that this experiment failed miserably after 1 year, and the kids are now back in standard public schools.
And then the final blow in this narrative of alienation is, it's perhaps the most personal one. The writer notes that the younger brother abruptly ceased practicing Christmas festivities.
It's so strange.
Even though he had merrily enjoyed Christmas before getting married.
Okay, here is where I have to look at this from a bird's eye view for a second, because I see this list, and this goes way beyond just voting for a different candidate,
Oh, definitely.
Pulling your kids out of public school for a classical curriculum, refusing to attend family weddings, stopping Christmas. That bizarre detail about stopping Christmas suggests this is actually a complete lifestyle overhaul.
It's total cultural immersion.
Right. The older brother isn't just dealing with a political disagreement anymore. He is looking at a completely different person.
And that is the exact mechanism driving the older brother's pain here. He perceives all these individual choices as symptoms of a massive identity shift. What he refers to as a, quote, major drift to conservative bullshit. Yeah. He views these actions as rooted in prejudice. And the emotional toll of watching someone you grew up with transform into someone totally unrecognizable is just severe.
It has to be.
The older brother admits he is uninterested in listening to him, doesn't care what he says, and honestly admits that it makes him despise him some.
Despise him some. I mean, that is such a heavy, tragic thing to admit about the person you shared your childhood with.
It really is.
When someone writes to an advice column with that level of pain, seeking a way to, harmoniously love, you expect the columnist to step in, lower the temperature, and offer some bridge-building techniques, right? Like conflict resolution 101.
Right. But the transition from the letter to the response is where this becomes truly fascinating. Because the Luv Doc completely abandons the traditional role of a mediator.
Yeah, the doc totally bypasses the emotional pain and zeroes straight in on the older brother's assessment of the former president. Like, remember the older brother called Trump a top 3 worst president? Well, the Luv Doc rejects that premise outright. He says, I don't think you're giving Octagon Don enough credit, arguing that he is entirely in a league of his own.
And the doc then takes the reader on this highly critical historical tour to validate that claim. He actually invokes historian Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Wait, really? Doris Kearns Goodwin?
Yeah, essentially inviting her historical expertise into the conversation to way past presidential failures.
That feels like a massive leap. I mean, the doc brings up James Buchanan and Andrew Johnson. How does an advice column about a fractured family text thread suddenly pivot to 19th century presidential reconstruction policies?
Well, it's a very calculated rhetorical strategy.
Okay, how so?
By elevating a family squabble to a historical crisis, the Luv Doc is establishing the stakes. He brings up James Buchanan's, quote, drunken dithering and Andrew Johnson's imbecilic, racist reconstruction policies. And he does this to acknowledge that America has certainly had criminally inept or morally corrupt presidents. But he does this specifically to argue that the current political moment is an unprecedented emergency.
Right. He argues that neither Buchanan nor Johnson approaches the, and this is a direct, quote, insanely arrogant, belligerent dickishness of 47.
The language is incredibly intense.
It is. He uses nicknames like Octagon Don and the Fat-Bottomed Fuhrer, basically asserting that no president in history has exhibited this unique level of ignorance, hubris, cynicism, and pathological dishonesty.
And this historical catastrophizing serves a very specific function for you as the reader. If you frame the current moment as an unparalleled historical emergency, it justifies extreme interpersonal measures.
Ah, I see.
It tells the older brother your anger isn't just a family dispute, it is a historically validated moral stance.
Wow.
Are you miffled that no one thought to buy you some flossy Luv Doc merch for your last birthday, anniversary, bat or bar mitzvah, graduation, baby or bridal shower? Your outrage is completely justified. Let it out and then get some revenge on your unthoughtful friends and loved ones by web surfing over to thepleasurecraft.com and buying all the dope merch your closets and storage spaces can hold. Remember, money is only temporary, but Luv Doc merch lasts easily a decade or so with proper care. At least that's what the merch company rep told us when he took us to that expensive strip club.
And the doc doesn't stop at the top of the ticket either. He broadens the attack to the simps and sycophants keeping the apparatus in power, claiming no president matches this level of corruption.
Right, he goes after the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, he points to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, claiming he's backed because he is almost as sleazy and helps cover up a corruption chub.
The grotesque imagery is extremely deliberate. The Luv Doc then lists politicians like Todd Blanche, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance, asserting they don't even qualify as Republicans anymore.
Yeah, he jokes that they'd be most comfortable lurking under the president's desk in a vinyl gimp suit. Just wild.
And then there's the comment about Stephen Miller where the doc remarks, I guess we're lucky he didn't become a school shooter.
Yeah.
So we really have to pause here and ask a fundamental question about the nature of this text. If I go to a professional looking for help with a family relationship, and they respond with a tirade of vinyl gimp suit jokes and school shooter comparisons, is this actually advice?
It's a great question.
Or is the Luv Doc just using the brothers' pain as a convenient springboard to vent their own political fury?
You've hit on the core utility of modern partisan media right there. This text functions primarily as a political manifesto masquerading as an advice column. Masquerading.
Right.
It validates the older brother's anger by not only agreeing with it, but amplifying it. By painting the younger brother's political ecosystem in such cartoonishly villainous terms, the Luv Doc completely validates the older brother's instinct to despise him.
Right, it gives him permission. But after this massive venting session, the doc does actually attempt to offer a psychological explanation. He moves from the insults to a theory of why the younger brother, and millions like him, continue to act this way.
Yes. The doc constructs a specific timeline to rationalize this behavior. He concedes that back in 2015, one could argue the attraction was voting for an outsider who was going to shake things up. He gives those past voters a pass.
But today, the doc argues, the landscape is different. He states that all sentient humans know the man has no redeeming qualities.
Which is fascinating phrasing.
Notice the dehumanizing language there, right? Sentient humans. It implies that anyone who disagrees is somehow lacking basic consciousness. It creates an immediate in-group and out-group, even within a biological family. And since the doc assumes all sentient humans know it's bad, he has to explain why people still offer support. So he introduces what he calls the no-win game trap.
The no-win game?
Yeah. He theorizes that supporters stay loyal simply because they're unwilling to admit they were horribly wrong.
Oh, so he frames it as a binary trap. He says, either you were duped into voting for a deplorable idiot, or you are one yourself.
Exactly.
It is essentially the ultimate sunk cost fallacy applied to political identity, like doubling down on a terrible poker hand because you've already bet your whole stack.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The doc is diagnosing the younger brother with mass cognitive dissonance. The theory is that the younger brother's entire worldview is now just a defense mechanism to avoid the ego death of admitting he placed a bad bet years ago.
It is a fascinating application of psychological theory to just dismiss political opposition. Like, he's arguing the younger brother's choices aren't driven by actual beliefs, but by an overwhelming fear of looking foolish. But, I mean, does completely writing off half the country's political motivations as an inability to admit they were duped actually reflect reality? Or is that just an intellectual shortcut?
It certainly functions as a shortcut.
It seems like the easiest way to dismiss the younger brother's beliefs without ever having to engage with them. I mean, the brother clearly cares about his kid's education and his religious beliefs. That's why he sought out a classical school and promoted a family and religion night.
Right.
Are we really supposed to believe that's all just a cover-up so he doesn't have to admit he was wrong about a politician?
That is the critical flaw in the Luv Doc's psychological framing. By reducing the younger brother's deeply held worldview regarding education, marriage, and religion to mere stubbornness and idiocy, it removes any requirement for the older brother to try and exercise empathy.
Because there's nothing to empathize with in that framing.
Exactly. It tells the older brother, you don't need to debate his ideas because his ideas aren't real. They're just symptoms of him being duped.
Which brings us to the actual advice part of this advice column, right? After the historical rants and the psychological diagnoses, what is the final verdict? How is Blue Big Brother actually supposed to interact with his sibling?
Well, the Luv Doc introduces what we can call the addiction paradigm.
Okay, the addiction paradigm.
It is a striking conclusion. The doc tells the older brother that he must treat his younger brother's idiocy with compassion and understanding, exactly like a drug addict or an alcoholic.
Wait, like a drug addict? So the ultimate advice for family harmony is to look at your brother, a caring dad living in the suburbs, and interact with him as if he has a crippling substance abuse problem, entirely based on how he votes and the schools he chooses.
That is the bottom line. You don't have to harmoniously love your brother. You just have to love him and try your best not to focus on his shortcomings.
Man, it's like the doc is telling him to put blinders on a racehorse so it can't see what's happening beside it.
That's exactly what it's like.
You can see your brother's lips moving. You can see him living his life, raising his kids, making his choices, but you are actively using a mental algorithm to mute the frequency of his actual beliefs. You just look straight ahead and love the biological entity that is your brother while completely ignoring everything that makes up his current identity.
Because pathologizing a relative's political beliefs serves as a really powerful protective mechanism.
Yeah.
If your brother is simply an addict suffering from a disease of idiocy, well, you are absolved of the hard work of actual empathy.
Right.
You don't have to understand the nuances of why he prefers classical education or why he skipped the wedding because you don't negotiate with the disease.
Wow. But that creates a deeply flawed paradox, doesn't it? Can you authentically love a family member if your foundational premise given to you by the Luv Doc is that you are treating them like a politically addicted idiot?
It's tough.
The advice explicitly prescribes love and compassion, but it wraps that love in a framework of profound, inescapable condescension. It places the older brother in the role of the enlightened, healthy caretaker, and the younger brother in the role of the sick, irrational patient.
It really leaves us to wonder what that actually looks like in practice. Because if you are loving someone while simultaneously dismissing their entire agency and intellect, you aren't really saving a family bond.
Not at all.
You are just creating a polite, silent estrangement. You might sit at the same Thanksgiving table, but you are miles apart because a relationship built on disregarding the other person's reality isn't a relationship at all.
We have certainly covered a lot of ground today. We tracked the anatomy of a family fracture, from Facebook posts about baseball games to the failure of a classical charter school in Texas.
And the canceled Christmas.
Right, the canceled Christmas. We explored how the Luv Doc used historical catastrophizing to elevate a family dispute, and we unpacked the mechanics of the addiction paradigm, where profound condescension is packaged as brotherly love.
We thank you for joining us in objectively analyzing such a fiery Luv Doc podcast.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/the Luv Doc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?